the soil of bitter affliction, they bury their dream held so dear. The vision had burned in their hearts, warming the future with joy, but now it lay cold in the ground, chilling the air with its silence. As day lost its light in the growing darkness, surrendering hope in despair, their cries pierce the night. In the shadows they whisper the desperate words of a prayer. Long lay the ground deathly still, no sign of a harvest to come. Barren and empty the field, a promise now cruelly broken. Sower, keep sowing your seed, though the wind is cold and the way is dark. Dreamer, keep tilling your field, for the harvest lies in your heart.
Okay, we're back. I had a little explosion. Yes, that is me singing. It is from my album, Good Woman, my very first album, and it was after a pretty late term miscarriage of my first child. And someone, while I was just in shock and grief, look at this paint all over myself. You know, normally these things are supposed to protect you from getting paint on yourself. I got paint on there, and it's on my shirt, it got on my arm, it got on my mouth. Whoa, what is happening? Anyway, yeah, that song for the Sower, was written after a miscarriage at about 5 months along, and I had to give birth to a dead little one. And so this song is really a powerful expression of what I went through. The sower, keep sowing your seed. It's dead, it's gone, it's not happening. And I think that is a word for us today, right? And so here I am, getting ready to talk to you guys. I'm just getting to know myself. So I'm just going to get the balance here, hopefully correct. Hold on.
Is cold and the way is dark. Dreamer, keep tilling your field, for the harvest lies in your heart. Though the wind is cold and the way is dark, dreamer, keep tilling your field, for the harvest lies in your heart. The harvest lies in your heart. It lies in your heart. The harvest lies in your
Well, bread maker, I bet you bake a lot of healing into your bread too, right? That's what we do. we use the gifts and the expressions that we have to bring healing and redemption to the world. But yeah, somebody asked me where you could get that. That is the CD. I was going to show you a copy of it. I don't know if I've got a copy right here, but it's the Good Woman CD. It was my very first CD ever. And in the light of all these things I was learning as a musician and the way that I wanted to write and create, and then out pops this prophetic song. You know, look at that. I got paint on my arm. Okay, so can I take this as a cue? Because a cue? Because something's got to happen on this canvas today, and I'm here today for those of you who are visual and metaphoric and surgical recovery. Yeah, homemade pasta. You go, girl. And yesterday I talked about dark energy and what takes place in the dark. I don't know if you guys can see this, but now this canvas has a lot of bumps in it on purpose. And I was in here a little bit before we started adding more texture with just black. And oh, I'm just such a great, wow, this is a good, maybe there's something in there for us. But I was adding texture with just black. And because there's a lot going on in the dark that we don't see. And that's kind of confirmed, you know, by those people who may think we're in a sting operation or something like that right now. There's the most important things that happen when there's a shift, a resurrection, new life being birthed, is that it's what you don't see that's more important than what you do see. So I've got a lot of energy on this canvas now related to texture. And so I thought, well, what are we going to do today? I mean, God had me paint this lovely bright. Do you see the paintings kind of off here? You know, I love color. All these colors were all over this canvas as a flame, a series of flames, and now it's black. It's utterly black. It's covered in ivory black. But there's a lot going on here with texture. And so I was thinking, what are we going to do? I have a few ideas, and but I did not think of red. Red was not on my plan, and yet it appears that that's where I need to start, because I've literally covered my arm and I had it on my face and now under my arm, on my hand, on my shirt. So it appears as if red is going to be an important color to start with. I had no idea. This is where we're going to take this journey together, because I don't plan in our gatherings. Very little planning goes into what is going to happen here. I just kind of let it rip. So we're letting it rip, right? Together. And what I'm seeing is the wind in here. I'm seeing wind and movement on this canvas. But it's dark and it's black, and it could be considered very, very scary. And that's where we are. So I want to prophesy into the movement we don't see. And I love what Hank Hanegraaff said, Kuhneman said about the moment with Elijah and the prophets of Baal, how he pours water on the sacrifice, turns up the risk, and douses the hopes, and makes it all the more difficult. We'll prepare, my friends, for a dousing of our spirits and our hopes through the 20th. Okay? Prepare for God to be pouring water and saying to us over and over again, oh, you think this is too hard? You didn't think that was hard? Let me show you it's hard. Let me just show you, how much weight I can lift. Let me just show you what I can do. Just pouring, just death knell over things. And watch for people dancing and celebrating too early. Watch for people calling the game before they realize it does have to go into overtime. Watch for people calling it dead or calling it alive, saying it is what it is, and being very, very overly confident. Watch for God to allow hope to be doused, and so that what happens winds up being beyond we could ask or think. And so watch, but be aware that there are things moving in the darkness, like, even when you're pregnant, that little baby Kint will be swimming around in that amniotic fluid until it gets too big to move. And so I'm just going to start changing this canvas today, and I'm going to start seeing where that takes us, because we're in a journey. And so have you noticed now that, you know, we moved from easy access to potentially thousands of people, thousands of ideas, and now we have to make efforts to connect very intentionally with a few key people that God highlights for us. Deeper commitment, right? Deeper investment, more conversations, more listening, more faith. We are now out of the adolescence of easy prophetic revelation and just going with the shiny object in the room. We are now into that place where deep calls into deep, where there are portals in the darkness that God is opening up for us. I read that from Job 38. He says, have you been to the deep places? Have you been to the deep springs? Have you been to the hidden things in the earth? Have you seen the portals in the darkness? Well, we're all getting a little bit more familiar with that. And so we're hanging in together. We're more attached to our communities, and maybe there's less numbers, less clicks, whatever, but all the more invested in one another, and all the more invested in the still small voice, that we have to listen to. Again, that image of the wind passed by, and all these things are passing by the prophet, and yet God spoke in the still small voice, and that's where we are. That's the still voice where he says to you, you're going to be okay. I'm doing what I'm doing. And I don't know about you, but the more I go into the dark, the more I go into the quiet places, the more I am aware of that still voice saying, no, I haven't changed. No, I haven't. I'm not doing anything different. No, I'm on it. I've got this thing. And it's a beautiful deal. I'm strangely restful. I hope you are too. So the canvas, I think, is ready for a change. And but I'm not trying to rush to an easy answer. But I feel like this movement here is changing me. This little space, this empty space in here, this negative space, is really shifting me. I can feel the convergence of two streams of movement here going like this. Do you see that? I don't know if you can see that. And so I'm going to go into this strange little space here, this eyelet, this slip of space between two moving currents. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and begin to work with this canvas. And again, I think our time together is about us reaching and communicating with all the senses, with touch, with sight, with sound, with visual, with artistic, with intuitive, and not just merely, one kind of information for one kind of person. So some of you, you're going to be like, why is she doing this? And others are going to go, she's speaking to my artist brain. She's speaking to my intuitive, prophetic brain. And I can begin to see what's possible for me. And that's what we do prophetically. I think God has, don't you feel like he has different modalities for different prophetic voices? There's one lady who's very helpful, and she is just as wordy. Oh my gosh, she is just words. Somebody's just all about numbers. Somebody is, super research based, and here I am, and I did not think I was going to do any painting anytime soon, and yet here I am at the canvas. And in the movement here in the utter darkness, there's almost a ghost, almost a ghostly shadow of something new. And I feel like we're going to hang on to that shadow. We're going to hang on to that shadow. We're going to hang on to the very thinnest, quiet things that God has been speaking to us in this hour. That He speaks to us when there are no other voices. That He speaks to us when it's just us with Him in the dark and there's no other stimulus. We're gonna stay with this faint, almost ghostly shadow in the dark. And I have had a few massive words in my life, a couple. And it was the biggest one that I had was extremely contested. And it took 30 years to see the answer for that one. But it was the most clear revelation I've had about my life and my journey. But it took 30 years to really see it. And I had to trust it and live out of it in many a dark night. But I've had a lot of things that turned out to be spot, dang, bang, accurate. There were wisps of revelation, an impression, a slight thing, just a thing beyond my reach that was just a shadow. And I've learned to run for the shadows, to listen carefully for the most quiet feather. And you know what, for now, let's go ahead and do that. The most quiet feather drop from God in the dark, in a moment of lack of clarity. The most quiet feather drop from God has wound up being some of the most deep revelation and accurate revelation I've had. I'll be ministering to someone and I'll get a very, very, very faint impression of something that could have happened, might have happened in their life, and it's just a whisper. And I will very often say, did X or Y, happen to you? Was that a thing? And I am very, very surprised how often that thing is very accurate. And what I've heard some prophetic voices say is that it's better for you to go with the whispers of God, the feathers of God, because you're going to get more than you realize. It's going to be deeper and more significant than you realize. And it's going to be less contested because it's just a secret little whisper. How many of you know how many people prophesied that Trump would be our president for 4 years when it was good and easy to say it? How many people were speaking that and sharing that? Hundreds of prophetic voices, I'll wager, saying this is what God wants to do, this is His thing, blah, blah, blah. And it was I would say it's a sure word and a very sure word. It was very broadcast strongly, and yet has it not indeed been probably one of the most contested words in all of human history? This is also why the revelation about the coming of Yeshua the Messiah was veiled in Scripture, I think in many ways, to aid in the secret sting operation of heaven, bringing a Messiah at such a key and seminal and perfect time. It was the veiled nature of the prophecies of Yeshua that kept the enemy in the dark, like the J drops. And then when the revelation began to be clear revelation, like Hannah and in the temple, and Simeon, I believe, and they said, this is the guy. And then what happens the minute that Yeshua is prophesied over by John, who says, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. What happened? What was the very next thing that happened? Yeshua gets taken into the wilderness and tested. I mean, really tested. I mean, 40 days of fasting, and a very compelling argument that he could prove his messiahship, and he should just turn it all over, right, to Satan. Very powerful. And you see then that as it's unveiled and the clarity of the word is unveiled, you see that I believe the pattern in Scripture is that that you will get ready for it to be contested. Get ready for the enemy to do absolutely everything he can to convince you otherwise, that it's not true, that it's not going to happen. See, now I was not in any way, shape, or form planning on painting a feather. What were you guys thinking I was going to do? Neither of us, I don't think, thought that I was going to be painting a feather here in the dark. And so we've been through this thing where the very clear word of God is so clear and so powerful and such a threat that it was like all things deployed to take it out, to just destroy it, and to get us to, leave the baby by the side of the road, in essence, to abandon the baby, to abandon the birth, abandon the process. Sometimes in some situations when a baby comes out and it doesn't look like it's going to thrive, there are some poor countries, where the mothers will just abandon because they're so afraid, they don't feel like they have any resources. And in a way, we've been tempted to abandon the birthing of this new season because it's been in distress. The birth process at least has appeared to us to be in distress. And the midwives in Egypt were called upon to kill the babies that the Israelites were having because they were a threat. So you see this: kill the babies, kill the babies, kill it while it's young, take it out because it's a threat. Whatever is identified as threat is going to be more specifically attacked in our life. The clearer words, the more, here's the Messiah now. Here's the guy that's going to be president for 4 more years and drain the swamp. Here's the thing that God is doing, are always attacked. And the degree to which that threat, affects the world is the degree to which the enemy's going to marshal the world forces against it. Like when Herod found out about the baby, right? So this is where we are. But you and I have this opportunity to go into the dark, to welcome this dark energy, what God is doing in the dark where no one can see it, and welcome the feather whispers of his communication to us right now. Welcome the quiet, secret place where his word is being made known to us, and let the feather drops of his assurances speak to us in a powerful way. And I want you to pay attention to the fact that sometimes the greatest revelation, people say to me, when you hear people say, well, I went to heaven, how many times, and Jesus appeared to me, and I had all this stuff from God, and so on and so forth. Hey, I'm excited by that. I love biblical level, events, like if it's going to be biblical, that kind of thing, But I'll tell you, I kind of dig the feathers. They keep me hidden. They keep me quiet. They keep me humble. They keep me, the level of warfare over a feather revelation, a quiet whisper revelation, is generally much decreased. And so we can embrace and know that we're not second class because we didn't get the big J-bomb appearance of an angel or whatever. They come when they know they're needed. Those kinds of experiences come when they know something is going to be contested. So can you be in the swirling energy of what God is creating in the dark? The wind flows, and to be very still and receive this beautiful feather that is dropping into your spirit right now. Can you receive that and embrace it as having great value? See, I don't even think I want it to be as dark as it is. I just wanted to get some more pink in there. And I think I almost want it to be more, less distinct. But I've already started, so I'm not going to abandon my paint strokes, which is something to think about when you're working something through in your life, especially with God right now. If you're feeling like, well, wait a minute, you know, this isn't what we signed up for. We signed up for a clear and present winner, you know, of the righteous servant on November 3rd, and we didn't really sign up for all this mystery, and we can be offended at God for that process, can't we? And just like with a canvas, when I start a painting, see, to me right now, I don't know if I'm ready for that much light that's falling. That white, pink white light is falling on the edge of that feather there. I don't know if I'm ready to embrace that light, because I still feel kind of in mystery and unknown. But it's on the canvas. So am I going to give up? Am I just going to throw down my paint brush and say, you know, well, I screwed that up. Let's, you know, where are you in your revelatory process with God right now? Are you going to, because you've got some strokes on your process and your unveiling of what He's doing that don't make sense to you, it's not what you intended, are you just going to throw the canvas away? I mean, what if God has just painted over your entire canvas of expectation with black, and now you're kind of making sense of it, and now, you know, now you don't like, it's too messy, it's too indistinct, it's not, some of you people would, you know, you really do not like how somebody like me even paints, because if you do, you probably wouldn't be watching anyway if it's really bothering you. You know, I have a friend who's very talented and graphic designer, likes to do line drawings, and I shared some of my paintings with him. And he looked at me really like, I'll show you one of them. I showed him this one. And he looked at me and almost rebuked me because I didn't know what I was doing. And rebuked me for not dealing with light properly, that I didn't understand light, and that the way light needed to be handled on my canvas was I needed to study light and see how it worked, because he said light, God is light, and any artist that doesn't take the time to learn how light works, it's like it was almost, you know, sacrilegious. And I was crestfallen. I was like, wow, I thought he'd find something in there he could, you know, he could encourage, but it made me go back to God and say, you know, and let him speak to me about what we were doing together, what our process was, and how he's working in my life, and what that looks like, and what I could learn from the offense. I think my brother, this artist brother, was almost offended that I was so so out there with work that he thought was so freshman level. And God has done so much healing in me. This was a number of years ago, that it smacked, it smarted, but I was kind of like, hey, dude, I'm so free. I'm just not going to overanalyze this canvas. This is what came out, and I'm in this process, and I'm accepting this. And I took that same canvas to another artist who's got a looser, sort of more impressionistic way, and she looked at it and went, I like it. I think it's, I mean, and she's really, really good. I mean, she'll paint the same thing 50 times just to get it just right. There's a much more loose affect with her painting. Why am I saying all this? It's because when you're in this process in the dark and something's emerging in your life, in your revelation, in your process, in your healing, and it doesn't look like the way and it's you want it to look and it's not what you expected, most of us just want to throw the canvas away. Most of us just want to go, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have a carbon footprint in this world, this life, this process, because I didn't get it just right. I didn't get it the way God, you know, the way it should have been. Well, here I am with This isn't what I plan to do, you guys, at all today. This is not it, and I don't even know, but it's kind of cool. It's really cool. I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of excited because it took an entirely different turn. To be honest with you, I feel blessed that you're here, Cindy Mack. I mean, to be honest with you, the easiest thing would be for me to paint this again, because I get this, you know, and there's the wind and there's the black and all this stuff. I even pulled it out to look at it. And what is our, you know, our general metaphor, the light in the dark, the candle in the darkness, and all this stuff. And yet here I am with a feather floating around in a room. And what did I say to you yesterday? That what emerges from the process of darkness, when there's a paradigm shift or a seed that's been planted, a conception of a child, you know, even when the earth rotates and the sun goes, you know, the stars are changing their positions when we see them again. Things are moving and shifting, and so can we expect that what emerges from this season of unknown and darkness is really going to be a whole new type of paradigm? Can we hold on to those feather-like dimensions that God is pouring into us now? The very quiet, you know, go there. Go into this movement of the darkness where everything you expected about this season in your life, in your family, in our nation, in our world has been painted over. What you were prepared for and I was prepared for, completely painted over in darkness, shrouded. Something's happening. Something's moving. In the very best of plots and sting operations and shifts and movements and births, it is what happens in the dark that we cannot see and discern, which is actually the most powerful and well thought out and potent. See, God designed that seed, which is an embryo, to go in the ground, in the dark. We can't see it. We don't know what's happening. And yet in that place, we don't know. That seed's very DNA, what was fertilized in it, plays out in a process of brilliance. The baby that is conceived inside the mom and is in total darkness for 9 months is unfolding with brilliant precision and creation, right, and design. God's plan in the dark of the death and resurrection, brilliant plan, and so we need to have the ability to look beyond dates. Don't get upset about what happens on November 20th. We have set that. We've set things. We've decided thus far and no farther. We've decided, well, this is it. We're at the Red Sea. You know, we're going to get taken out. Well, this is it. There's no more. No, there's no more we can do. I mean, it has to be the 20th. It has to be this. You know, we decided, wow, if the Supreme Court doesn't make this right, and if Mike Pence doesn't make this right, you know, we're screwed. It is what it is. And if I don't see some kind of movement, wow, it's over. Well, what has God taught us? It's anything but over. It's anything but over. Even if we looked at a very surprising outcome that, first of all, I'm sticking with the prophetic words. But what I'm telling you is, this is my Father's world. This is His world, His plan, His operation to reveal the sons and daughters of God to the earth, okay? And so He is going to have His way. And His church, His ecclesia, His bride is going to be purified. And the nations are going to come to Him. And there's going to be a massive harvest. And righteousness and truth and justice, those foundations of His throne are going to be manifest in the earth one way or another. So we need to back off of our determination of, I can just only go so far. I just can't go another day. How many of you moms pregnant with a child that's late, a first baby 10 days late, you just want to say, I can't go another day. I just can't go another. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's so late. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Right? What happens? Normally you just go with it until the baby's ready. And I had it all planned out. This baby should have been there by the 8th of August. It's circled on my calendar. And people say, you can't really count on a due date, blah, blah, blah. But when it starts 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 7 days, 9 days, right? And you just start saying, I just can't do another, I can't do another thing. Excuse me. Wow. But you do. You do. And you suck it up. You say, like, through different seasons of your life, I can't carry on. And you pay attention. When you're pregnant, when you're watching for seed growth, you're paying attention. You're making sure to water the seed, aren't you? You're making sure as a pregnant mom that you're eating well and you're resting and you're counting those kicks. You're listening for the kicks of the baby, right? And you're being monitored. We can do that. We can monitor our situation. We can listen for intel. We can feast on prophetic revelation. But there's so much we'll never know. And we'll be stretched beyond what we can imagine. This is a battle for the entire planet, just like when Jesus came. The entire planet. It's like another flood, a worldwide flood. It's like another destruction of the temple. What's coming next? It's like the appearance of the Messiah. It's like this is like the American Revolution. This is a worldwide tectonic plate moving season we're in. And so let's not be weenies. Can we stop being weenies and assuming if it doesn't go look this way at a certain time that it's game over and oh my gosh, these guys were wrong and these guys were right. No. You're going to go in this swirling energy of darkness and you're going to pay attention to the tiniest little feather conversation with God where he gives you just what you need, and you're going to pay attention to that feather. You're going to pay attention to that whisper, to that peace, to that quiet, to that rest. Now, I have had the Lord say to me something sober once when I was praying and contending for something in my state. And then I was very anxious about it, and I went into his presence. And I was like, Lord, this can't happen. I mean, it's just the worst possible thing. It's just going to be happening. I mean, what, Lord, and I just so wanted him to pat me on the back and say, what I was hoping for. And he basically quietly just said, Julie, it's not going to go the way you want. And I gulped, and he spoke to me a little bit about it. I took a deep breath. I processed that, and here I am 5-6 years later with that situation has come around. Now there's a new season, and it was a statewide issue, and now we're in a very changed statewide setting. So God can speak to you even when you want to hear a certain thing. He can speak to you and say, I hate to tell you this, but, tighten up your belt, fasten that seatbelt. It's not going to be what you expect. He can help you land into something that would be disappointing to you. He can help you stabilize, right? But I'm telling you right now, so even that feather, if it doesn't give you your warm, fuzzy kind of thing, it's powerful. And it's just what we need in the movement. And I'm just going to tell you, for me, when I went there and I said, okay, God, don't blow smoke up my shorts. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Am I off in some weird conspiracy theory, prophetic denial about what's happening? And the little feather, no, hang on. No, rest. You're okay. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. And I'll tell you, from the ministry that I do with people, and I can't believe I'm talking so much. I'm sorry. I usually try to do a 30-minute here. I used to be a fixer because I was so neurotic about wanting to make the world safe. So when people were in crisis around me, or chaos or pain, especially in my family of origin, I did everything I could to fix it, to make it better, to try to use. I had a natural gift of encouragement and exhortation, so I'd be, and I'd be the one jumping into very codependent ministry settings to try to fix people, because inside I felt unsafe by the chaotic nature of relationships around me. And so I would always be the person with a great idea. I still have a lot of ideas, ask Darcy. I get a lot of ideas, but I'll tell you something. Now that I've learned about the feather, I'm learning to help other people find theirs, hear theirs, pay attention to theirs. And now most of my ministry, thank you, bread maker. Most of my ministry when I minister to people, in addition to exhortation and encouragement, is let's stop and let's listen together. And we'll ask the Holy Spirit questions. And I'll tell you what they hear from God is so much more impactful. What they see, what they hear, what they experience is, I'm not kidding you, multiplied many much mores than any revelation that I could give them, any prophetic word. And I will often prophesy over people, and I like to do that. I'll see things, I'll say, hey, what about this? Have you considered this? But I'll tell you in a pinch, the thing that sets people free and makes them the most clear, feel the most loved, the most set free, is hearing from God themselves. And it's usually a very still voice. It's a quiet impression. They'll start by saying, I don't know if this is anything but. Well, this is really weird. I don't know why this popped into my mind. It's probably nothing. But, I don't know. I just can't get this little thing out of my mind. It's, okay, I'll throw it out. But, and I'll tell you consistently when they go, I just, I can't get this out of my mind, but it can't be anything. Those will be the threads that pull on some of the deepest and most healing revelation that I personally see in ministry with other people. And I've learned to hold open a space for others. I'm very verbal. I like to hear myself talk, I like to talk, except for when I'm done, I'm shut down. I'm like, I'm quiet. And I've got good ideas and blah, 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 blah. But I've learned that what we do for one another, very often that is the most important thing, is to create a space around another person for them to be still and quiet. And we become a space holder, a placeholder for hearing God. It's like when you have an appointment with somebody and you sit with them and they say, let's hear God together. Okay, let's put our phones down, right? And then you've got that other person in the room who's not going to let you jump up and wipe your countertop off, or go check your mail, or feed the cat, or whatever it is. That other person is holding open a sacred space for you to hear with God. And that is very healing, because those of us who struggle with anxiety find it hard to be still, because then the inner unrest rises up in us, and the fear that we're not going to be safe in the stillness, that we won't be loved in the vulnerability. So it's a very beautiful thing for us to facilitate those feather-dropping moments for one another, and to give each other faith that the most quiet, insignificant whisper impressions that you get throughout the day may be, I'm going to say they are, the most powerful revelation you will ever get. And if you'll learn to pay attention to your whispers, you'll find that it goes more deeply and settles you more and becomes your precious golden word from God, more than all the prophets you're hearing right now. It really, 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 really is true, because one word spoken to you from the Lord, to your heart, that you're able to finally discern, honor, recognize, and deeply receive, I promise you, your feathers are more powerful than Kat Kerr's visits to heaven. For you. Your feathers from God right now are more powerful than Johnny Enlow's thing, or Mark Taylor's thing, or Q's thing. They really, really, really are. And they're also your most powerful gateways to ministry with other people, those little quiet impressions when you're with someone. And so let's do it. Let's be in the whirling vortex of things blowing and changing and creating, being created in the dark. And let's embrace the feathers of his voice right now. And would you please join me in prayer? We have a ministry thing happening in our home tonight. And we have a heart coming tonight, that is very, very confused and in need of a supernatural breakthrough of truth and love. Would you agree with me in prayer for this precious heart that is coming, is going to walk through our door, who is, it's kind of shake your head level confusion going on there. And would you pray with me and agree? We just agree right now that God is going to take a cloud of love and surround this young person, so completely encapsulate this person in his love so that the barriers come down and the self-protection and the lies and the strongholds are just permeated by love, that we will have divine appointments, that feathers will drop all over our house for this person, and that drop into this person's spirit, truth just filtering through all the lies, and that this will be a glorious rescue operation tonight, a glorious redemption and healing for this precious soul. Because in the end, with all the world going this way or other, who's coming to your table? Who are you ministering to? Who are you sharing the gospel with? Who are you praying with? When you have to get on the phone, are you asking the person on the phone, how can I pray for you today? Let me pray. Is there one thing I could pray for you for? What would it be? I can't tell you how many people I've got to lead to Christ just because I ask that one question everywhere I go. One at a time, and then the whole world, right? That's how God is working. All right, so you see the Threshold Warrior poem. I love it. I'm just going through this, and I'm kind of excited to see what's going to, because I could have painted a candle every day of the week, right? But look at this, and look how much space is left in the darkness for other things. What could happen next? Go do something that scares you, like be really quiet and let the Lord really drop a feather into your heart, and then pick it up and play with your nose. Use it on your nose.